FOJ 22. What's up, Jay?
Jeff, what's going on, buddy?
22 episodes.
How about it? Did you think we would get this far when we started this thing?
Yes, and we have more listeners than I thought we would, which means
That's awesome.
we have more than 2 listeners, which means more than you and me.
That's cool.
And we got our first YouTube comment, too.
Yes, we did.
So welcome. We got Jason and my new friend, Phil. Welcome, Phil.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So how do you guys know each other?
We know each other as, well, we're friends now, and we're friends then, too. But all 3 of my boys played high school baseball for Phil. So we had a 8-year baseball relationship between all the 3 boys.
Gotcha. So, Phil, just between you and me, how did that go?
How
much of an asshole was like Jeremy or Justin?
Well, no, I'll tell you what, the boys are great. The boys were great.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, they were great players. All 3 playing college baseball, or Justin's done now. But, I heard him on the show a couple episodes ago. Yeah, just good kids, played hard. I know when he said, we were friends all the time through those 8 years, sure there were times on the sidelines where he was MFing me and what are we doing here or stuff like that, like most parents do. But he was pretty supportive for sure. And we had a good run of baseball those 8 years for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know why you were winking the whole time, like making facial gestures. But hey, that's neat.
No, we had an absolute blast. I have nothing but positive things to say about our Plainfield South baseball experience. I mean, this guy's got, I did research on you, Coach, even though I know, but 34 years of high school coaching.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I have this right at 688 wins. Is that true?
688. COVID cost me getting to 700. We had a pretty good team that year. We would have won 20 games, but whatever. No,
yes. So 688 wins, 2 summer state titles that I'll get to in a minute. And currently 2, I don't know if the third one's ever going to make it back. I hope he does, but two graduates pitching in the minor leagues right now.
Yeah. Jordan Michael pitches for the White Sox, and he actually pitched yesterday.
I saw that
in the 9th inning, so that's pretty cool. Second year in a row he's pitched in spring training, which is a lot more than a lot of guys can say. And Connor Ash did get invited to spring training with the Phillies. Had a rough go when he got down there. His father passed away, Kelly, who was a great friend of mine at 51 years old. And so Connor had to come back. And now he's back down there. I'm actually going to go down there St. Patrick's Day and see him down in Clearwater. Stay about 4 or 5 days with Connor. And then I'm going to come back for a week and then go to Arizona and see Jordan down in Arizona. First time in 34 years of coaching and 5 years of playing college baseball. So like 40-some years, I've never been able to go to spring training or go see any of my kids really play in the spring or anything like that. So I'm going to get out and see the boys play, I got a player from York High School as a head coach at Murray State, not head coach, he's a pitching coach. I'm going to go to Illinois State, see him coach. So there's a lot of things I want to do being retired now and seeing some of those kids. But yeah, it's a long career and we got a couple kids playing pro ball, so that's exciting.
Very cool. Well, I know that career got you in, see if I get this right, Illinois High School Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 2013. So that's a pretty high honor and very well deserved. I know you. There we go.
Oh, look at that.
I know you obviously spent some time with the USA national team, hence the jacket you're wearing right there. That's awesome too.
Yeah, I didn't plan that, but yeah.
But talk about, okay, so let's go back to the summer of 2016. You've got Connor Ash, who we mentioned, Jordan Michael, Austin Moroses, Nick Mayeroffer, Nick Enlow, Trey Stewart, Marco Escobar. That team was pretty loaded. I mean, talk about those kids and what your expectation was for those guys as they made a heck of a run in the summertime of 2016.
Yeah. Certainly a super talented group. I think we had 5 or 6 pitchers that touched 90. Yeah, let's see, trying to get it right. It seemed like a long time ago, but I think their junior year, we got to the super sectional, and it was, I'll tell you, I'll get to this point, but we lost, I was going to say shit. I can't say that.
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We lost to Providence in the super sectional. We lost 4-3. That was their 3rd straight state championship. We had bases loaded in the first, got a kid thrown out the plate, but we boxed the fly ball in the outfield because I had to move some guys around because one of our players missed the day before practice, and our rule is no matter what game it is, game 1 or game 40, they had a sit, so we had to move some outfield around, and I don't think we had our best defense. And we there's a ball that could have been caught. I think you remember, Jason.
I do.
And so, and then we threw behind on a runner. Jordan Michaels at second. We threw behind. Not supposed to throw behind with runners on. We always throw behind. So anyway, lost 4-3. And then we went into the summer, won the summer state championship. Great run. I truly believe winning the summer is, I'm not going to say it's more difficult, but it's a bitch because you're playing every single day, and that run teams we played in that deal there was, we had to have our A game every game. Things got to be perfect to win a state championship. So they won a state championship is going into their senior year. Then it was probably the most difficult team I ever coached when they were seniors.
Gee, Coach, why is that? Why is that?
Because going into the season, we ranked number 8 in the country by Baseball America. And all of our 3 big guys were matriculating through choosing schools and getting written up everywhere, and preseason All-Americans in Baseball America, Austin Rosas was, and then people trying to change mechanics on pitchers or pitcher, and kids, it was just a mess. It was the toughest, most talented team I've ever had, and the toughest year of my career. I even thought at the end of that season, I was like, I think I'm done. I can't. It was the most bipolar team I've coached. It was tough. We were still good, and we still, we lost in the regional championship. We stranded like 17 runners, bases loaded, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th inning. I think we lost in 11 innings, right?
Yeah, I remember.
And still had a decent year, but it's all preseason until the playoffs, honestly. In high school baseball, we didn't get it done. And I think if we would have won that regional game, won that regional championship, Connor Ashford's ready to go against Sequel. I think we win that. I think we win the section. I think, honestly, they had put so much pressure on themselves reading the clippings in the paper when papers were in existence. And I think if we would have got through that, I think it would have been a sigh of relief. And I think it would have went on a roll, and we might have a chance to win it all. Yeah, that was that team in a nutshell.
Yeah, I remember. Well, first off, damn that senior ditch day. Because if that was what I recall, I think a couple of guys spent some time at the beach when they probably shouldn't have. But
they went.
Kids.
They went to the beach. They came late, and they had to sit. And
yep.
So what happens in the locker room when something like that happens? Take me through the mindset of the player. No, I mean game day, right? So you talked about a play, right, where maybe the player who wasn't playing might have been able to make the play, and so that player is sitting in the dugout. Does he? I mean, I hope he feels bad. It feels like that's maybe laying the team down, but take me through the psychology there.
I'm sure they did, and I'm sure they felt bad. I'm sure it made us weaker for those few innings. I really don't hear what's going on in the dugout. My ears and eyes in the dugout were Chet Lines, and I'm sure he heard some stuff in there. But the kids know, the kids know that, the rules are the rules, and that was it. And yeah. And when I was at Mendota, I coached at a small school for 15 years, and we finished second in state one year, finished third, fourth, Elite Eight a couple of years. And I had a shortstop who missed the morning hit. We used to hit in the mornings because we got out of school late, or not late, but not like at Plainfield. We got out of school at 2:00 at Plainfield, so we could hit every day before a game, so we didn't have to bring him in the morning and hit. But at Mendota, we had to hit in the morning, and he missed the morning, and he missed the playoff game, and we ended up winning the game. But that's just, I think those life rules and those lifelong lessons that carry over into when they become parents, when they become workers, when they become, fathers and husbands. Hopefully they carry those things over. And, I've had many kids say, hey, getting up at 5 to go to work is nothing, because we had to be at practice at 5 a.m., for 3 straight weeks. Or we had to be, if I tell the kids to be somewhere at 6:00, every one of those kids, and Justin can probably attest to this, he was there at minimum 15 minutes before. So those are life lessons in the grand scheme of things. Nobody, like to win, and winning's important, but that's not the most important thing.
Yeah, I would think that maybe it would be, the easy way out would be kind of throw those rules out the window. We got to win and all that kind of stuff. But I have a lot of respect for you for keeping that in place, because it's got to be tempting to be like, man, this is the playoffs. We're here. We got to have our guys. This is how we got here. And then unfortunately, you got to remember that they're still kids and they make mistakes and things like that. So you have to teach them the lesson that they need to learn for life,
Well, did they learn that lesson when they sat? All the players that have unfortunately probably fallen prey to that rule. Do you think more often than not they learn that lesson?
I hope so. None of them come back and said, you're an asshole for doing it, or I think most of them turned out to be pretty good kids. I did have a kid one year, my first year at South, we have a rule that if you miss 2 practices, no matter what it's for, you're done, no matter who you are, no matter what. And we had a young man who led the team as a junior in home runs. I think he had 9 home runs as a junior, and I think it was my second year at South. And he missed on St. Patrick's Day because he wanted to go to the St. Patrick's Day parade, and he was done. And his mom, years later, came back and said, hey, I want to thank you for that. It made him grow up. He respected you for that. Actually, we had him set up after his senior year to go play at a junior college, play baseball, because he was that good. And he ended up not playing and going into trades. But yeah, so I think they learned a lesson. I did go against it one time in my career. I was head sophomore football coach at Mendota. And I was young, and one of my assistant coaches was a veteran, older guy, and I respected him. And I had a running back, punt returner, running back, kickoff returner. He did everything. Little bitty kid, Hugo Diaz, and he's an awesome young man now. He's got kids, and I see him on Facebook all the time. He was one of the best little football players that I've ever been around. And he's also the head football coach at Mendota for a few years. That didn't go well. But anyway, that's another story. So my assistant coach says, hey, you missed the practice before a game, and you sit the game. And he said, we're not going to do it. He goes, why don't we just never take him off the field? Really bury him. Just leave him on the field for every play, and he'll be beat and tired, and he'll get the lesson. And so I'm like, yeah, okay. And we did it. And he scored 6 touchdowns, and I never did it again. But yeah. So that's the flip side of that.
That's hilarious. So we're not going to sit him. We're just going to beat him into the ground.
That's what he said. Yeah, we'll beat him in the ground. And the kid was happy as could be playing.
And we'll take the W with it. That's what I like about it.
Right.
Too funny. So, okay. So you guys obviously won it all in 2016. You've got this young the thing that stuck out for me back then was you got this little 14-year-old kid behind the plate who I have this picture of Austin, who, if I recall, is like 6'7". Little
6'8".
Justin, 6'8". Little Justin's about, I don't know, 5'6", 5'7" on a good day. It's almost like Austin with either his little brother or his son standing next to one another as they pitched and caught the title game. Justin said catching Austin's fastball, if you blink, you'll miss it. That's how hard he was throwing it that time.
It had so much movement and hard. And it's funny, we always say he didn't have a great senior year. His ERA was like maybe 120. I know he tied the record of him and Ritter had the record.
Yeah.
Maybe Austin's ERA was like 0.67 his junior year, but then it was like 120, like bad year. I mean, it was awesome, but it was funny. I always used to tell Austin when I would go to the mound and talk to him on the mound, which wasn't often, except for that one game at Joliet West where I took him out of the game because he wanted to feature his off speed. You remember that? Yeah, maybe we'll cover that after this, but I would always tell Austin to get off the mound and let me get on the mound, and then I could see him eye to eye. So he would come off the mound and go down, and I would go up the rubber there and talk to him. But yeah, he was a special pitcher. They're all good group. Still talk to them all. One night, maybe a month or two ago, I had them all on, what do you call it? The text message, and we were all talking. And it was about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. They were all just talking baseball and, love you, coach. And it was really heartwarming, just to talk to all three of them at one time. It was
That's cool. Okay, so let's fast forward. I'm sure you remember this. Spring, I think it was 2017, last regular season game of the year. We're playing Minooka at home. Tight game. Justin's at the plate, argues a strike 3 call, and gets ejected.
Yeah, your kid.
Probably, my kid, Jeff, my kid. First time ever he's been thrown out of a baseball game in...
I wish I could say the same.
Ever, yeah. Well, that's true. So he gets tossed. They got to bring in their center fielder who, had caught in the past, but hadn't caught in a while. So I forget if they went on to win or lose that game. It didn't matter. But the playoffs started the following Wednesday. And the rule is if you get ejected, you have to sit the next game. So, Coach, tell me, I know how bad Justin felt. How pissed off were you?
I wanted to rip his head off. I was pissed, I was pissed, but I thought it was unwarranted, and especially, honestly, an umpire knows we're starting regionals,
I think it was Adam. Wasn't it Adam?
Go figure. But I hope he's listening to this. I'm going to send him the what do you call it, the link, and let him listen.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Connor asked for space at the plate in that regional championship game against these two. If you remember that play.
I do.
I was on the plate. His whole body was across the plate, and him rung him up. But anyway, I was pissed. And then I had to find somebody to play. So he didn't, because if we got a game before regional started, because you could play up until regional start.
Right.
If I could schedule a game and get somebody to play us. Now, a lot of people didn't want to play it because you're good. So it was hard to get somebody to play us. I think it was Glenbard West. We went all the way to Glenbard West, which was like 1,000,000 miles on a weekday. And we played Glenbard West, and I think we lost the game. And so he was able to fit that game and then be eligible to play in the playoffs, which...
Now, this is a coaching difference.
Worked out.
So I know you were mad, but how mad was the rest of the team? I mean, obviously you got these highly touted seniors and all this kind of stuff. And then, you got little Justin who's guilty and didn't even want to go to school the next day. He was so upset because he had to come talk to you first thing in the morning.
I think he was upset having to do that, but I think also he was upset because he let his teammates down, because he was our guy. I mean, he was just that summer when we won the summer state, when he pitched, I think I called him the night before and I said, "Hey, you want to pitch?"
That's 2018. Yes.
Yeah, was that 2018? Yeah, 2018. Yeah. I say, hey, you want to pitch? I got no pitching. We're playing. Who do we play? That was like private school.
We played St. Lawrence.
Big left-handed. Yeah, St. Lawrence, which was like a team. And I said, hey, you haven't pitched ever for me. And you're pitching tomorrow. Biggest game to get us the what's it, championship game, right? Or
it was the state semifinals, and the winner went to North Central for the finals.
That's right.
It was.
Yeah. And he pitched the gem. Yeah. So.
The funny thing about that, he was in the bathtub in like trying to, with the smelling salts and just trying to get his body ready to catch the next day, let alone pitch. So
pitch 6 2/3, right? Because Submariner came in and got the last out, right? I can't remember the kid's name. We called him Submariner because he threw from down underneath. Forget his name. Sorry.
He got out of the bathtub. He came running downstairs. He's like, Dad. He's like, Coach wants me to pitch tomorrow. What do I tell him? I go, well, what did you tell him? He goes, I told him absolutely. I'm like, well, okay then.
It was crazy. 2-1 game. 2-1.
That was pretty wild. I have that whole Matt McCormick was that kid's name on St. Lawrence. I have that whole at bat on video, and I still watch it from time to time. It was pretty. Even though he walked him, I was just happy he kept him in the park.
Don't throw him a strike. Yeah, don't throw him a strike. But didn't he make the last out of the game, McCormick, or no?
No, the next kid did. He may have been on deck, something like that. But
because I was like, one more batter, and this ain't happening, and we got that kid to fly out the right. It
was a fly out to Tony Mosier, but that was
and that's always scary, Mosier in the outfield. But
well, I won't tell his mom you said that.
I know. Gosh, hope she doesn't listen. That's okay.
Well,
he was a great kid and fun. He was a good kid.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's now fast forward to summer 2018. The team is, I would say, and I think you would agree, drastically different at this point. You still have Justin, you still have Tony, but you had, Griffin Lapp, Connor Blake, Austin Richardson, the Pollock brothers, Puma, just a bunch of guys, not really anybody that was really known locally, let alone nationally, like you had 2 years ago. And then they went on to win Summer State again. I mean, tell me how different that was.
Well, that team, you mentioned Connor Blake, you mentioned, Moj, all the guys on that team. Griffin Lapp was like, tell you what, the most fun I've ever had calling a pitcher in my career. And I had a lot of good pitchers. I think that's one thing we always had at Mendota. We had some really, really good kids, some pro kids. And there was no kid I've ever enjoyed calling pitches for than Griffin Lapp. That kid, I don't know what the saying is, get a fly on a horse's ass or whatever it's saying. Yeah. He could, like, he walked, give you this, Jeff. He pitched 77 innings as a senior. He pitched 10 innings and had 9 saves as a junior. So that's 87 innings, if my math is correct, and was a PE teacher. How many guys did you say he walked in those 87 innings?
My guess.
He sounds like he's a good pitcher. 10?
Yeah. My guess would be 3.
One walk in 87 innings.
One walk in 87 innings. That kid was amazing. So anyway, but he not one kid on that team was a D1 kid. Those kids played together, and I can say this now because the IHSA, whatever. Those kids played with me and Kelly Ash, who we just lost, and was a great, great person for our program, and those kids would go to his facility. That group was the most together group I've ever coached, probably since my 96 team at Mendota that took second in state, because they were always at the field hitting too. These kids were always working on their game. They loved baseball. They were together. They bought into everything we did. If it was first and third, we didn't even give a sign for safety squeeze. They just safety squeeze. It was automatic. That's how we put 4 or 5 runs against Prairie Ridge in the championship game. Uh-huh. He said, "You guys just bunted the shit out of us." He goes, we couldn't defend it. You can't defend the first and third safety. If you get the bunt down, it's a run, guy from first advances, and then a lot of times teams shit the bed and throw it down the right field line to get the guy at first. You can't defend it if you get the bunt down, and we did that. And then when they come and charge and put coverage on, we'd butcher boy, put the bunt out, pull it back, and just chop it through the infield because all the infielders are moving, so your infield's wide open. So yeah, we did that in when we beat who's the team we beat this sectional championship when they were like 35-2. Oh, it's a great program, and we bunted it. Remember, we 10-run them in fifth inning.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I can't remember the team, but I do remember.
Yeah, but we bunted the crap out of them too. So that team, they bought into everything we did. That was probably one of the most fun teams to coach. They knew the game. You basically didn't have to coach in the game, honestly. They bought into fundraising. They were great fundraisers. They bought into being in practice early. They bought into tucking their shirts in. They bought into no facial hair. All I know I have some now, but
well, the Yankees have updated their rules now, so it's probably okay, right?
I wouldn't have updated if I would have kept coaching, but they could have taken me to carpet out. They could have said, no, I'm not cutting my hair, because we had to cut their hair, they had to shave, and tuck their shirts in practice. But that was one of the most fun teams I've ever coached in my career.
My favorite memory of that year was the conference title game, the morning of graduation at South against North. And they were so pissed because the game was supposed to be at North, and if I remember, their right field was like a swamp, and you refused to play. And Darlington was so mad that he had to bring his team to South. And I guess didn't the conference get involved in all that? And he was so pissed.
Here's what happened. So we get there, and he's sitting on his bucket, and John's a great coach and will be a Hall of Fame coach. It's crazy that he's not, but and he will be. But he's sitting on his bucket, and I knew Chet says to me, he's like, he doesn't want to play today because they're get an extra day, get a pitcher ready, whatever. He doesn't want to play, and I wanted to play. We had our number one ready to go, and so I walked the field, and I'm like, shit, there's no way we could play here. Now our field was probably usually worse, you know what I mean? But if we had Harbon and whatever, but so he says, I walk over there with the umpires, and he says, all right, Phil, I'll see you Monday. And I kind of like, okay. And I walked, Chet's like, no, Chet was the one that did it. He said, no, that's not right. If you can't play here, we can move it to our place. It's in the city. It's, a simple bus ride. You get the mini buses and we go. The conference bylaws say that we can move it to our place. So Darlington's not going to do it. He's like, no, we're not doing that. He calls his AD, and Lear says, yeah, I think so. Chet calls principal, AD, principals call Darlington, AD call, bing, bang, boom. I don't know how it happened. We're playing it there. So we get on the bus, and we're just kind of laughing, like, that's them, and we beat him. I think it was 6-1 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Richard laughed, pitched a great game.
I remember the
kids going through. One of their kids going through the line. I still have it on video, shaking hands. Gave me a forearm shiver at the end of the line. Everything so pissed.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember. I think it was Alex Lakovich just kind of put the game out of reach with a bomb over the left field fence.
Yeah,
and my favorite part of that game was the last out. Ryan Pollock at first base after he caught the throw. I think maybe even from his brother at third, but he caught the throw and then he waved to all the North fans. See you later.
Yeah,
that was just hilarious.
Yeah,
just a classic.
Great. Yeah, it was fun, and that's only one of two conference championships that South has ever won. That conference. Tell you what, the conference for those 17 years that I was in that conference coaching. And when I was at York, I thought the West Suburban Gold was really, really good, and it was at that time. But I don't think there's in the last 10 years, there hasn't been a conference outside of the private school, with all those guys, St. Rita, St. Lawrence, and all those teams. For public school conference, there's no better conference.
I've said that for years. Maybe outside of the Catholic League, but other than that, there is nothing better. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we've brought him up a couple times, and I saw the family at his wake. I saw Connor, I saw Kelly, his ex-wife, and met his daughter for the first time. Talk to me about your relationship. Yeah, talk to me about your relationship with Kelly Ash. He was one of Plainfield's good guys, no doubt about it, and had a positive effect on a lot of kids in this area.
Yeah.
And if I make you cry, I'm sorry, but I'm just really curious.
It's he certainly was one of my closest friends. He did so much for kids in our program. He did so much for kids in general. I mean, during COVID, he opened his facility up when no facilities were open. And he said, I don't give a shit. He goes, there were so many pro athletes in his facility at one time. It was like crazy. Like every kid in this area. I mean, kids were coming from Chicago, wherever, through the grapevine, hearing that Legacy Athletics is open and you can go there and work out. And it was amazing. So he did that for those kids during that time, and they all remember and know, because they all said it at the wake, and kids were just, it was just, but Kelly was, a great friend. We coached together that 2018 Summer League Championship team. We coached almost every single kid on that team played for Kelly and I on that team. And the day before the state championship started, we played 5 games the Sunday before. And I was so pissed because we wanted to lose. Me and Kelly were like, we want to lose. And we kept winning. We got to the championship game of that tournament. I was like, what the hell? And kids were like, they would beat. We lost that first game, right? We came in and lost that first game and had to win every game after. And kids were chasing. I remember, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I won't say any names, but it was, I'm sure your son was beat to hell. But yeah, Kelly we had some great times going to Georgia. Some things I can't repeat on a show here, but we just had some great times. And we were planning to go to Florida. I'm going here the 17th, and that trip was supposed to be with Kelly, see his son, and and I'm certainly super close to Connor. Reach out to him, every few days, and he's doing great. On the 17th, when I land, I'm actually going to their, what do you call it, Airbnb, and I'm going to stay with Kelly, his ex-wife Kelly, and their family. Whitney will be there, Connor, of course, and Connor's birthday on the 17th. So
cool.
We're going to celebrate with the family. Just a sad thing. It just makes you say, each and every day we're here, make the most of each day, because we're not promised another minute, and it's, I just talked to him on Saturday before, he died on Sunday.
Wow.
So good man, great heart, funny, just a blast. Yeah. But he did a lot for baseball.
He'll be missed for sure. Like I said, he did a lot and not just the guys. I mean, I know he coached softball for a while as well. So just a lot of real positive impact on kids around here.
Took second at state with Plainfield North softball.
Yes, I remember.
Ended up coming to South. It's a funny story how that happened. Be quick here, but Kelly and I were in Georgia, and I said North didn't have a full-time job for Kelly. And I said, what if I could get you a full-time job at South? Would you take the softball job at South? And he's like, we're having a few Diet Cokes. And he said, yeah, I'd take it. I said, all right, give me a minute. Go outside. I called Chet. I called our principal. I said, if we can get Kelly a job in our special ed department, he'll take our softball job and leave North. Came to South, did a great job with our softball program, actually coached basketball because that was really his first love. He loved Indiana basketball. He's from Indiana. And, just in a few seconds, over a few Diet Cokes, we got him to our side. And that was kind of neat to, have him there every day. And I don't know if you saw his way, one of the kids that was in that program that he was in spoke. And it was, I still have it on video. What a great, he made a mark on those kids too,
Yeah. He'll be missed.
I want to ask, were there repercussions from North on that? I mean,
they were pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were pissed. Yeah.
How did Ben Hewitt feel about that one?
Yeah, I don't know. No comment. But I know they were pissed, and I know that they tried to make it work out again, call them back and whatnot. But he just taken their team to second place and state. Good deal.
So, okay, I don't know if I told you this. I am helping to coach a 13U team this year. So I kind of am getting back into it.
Yeah, I listened to the podcast.
That's right. So we're talking to the kids. These are mostly 7th graders, right? I think we have 1 8th grader. So we're talking to the kids about what life is like as a high school baseball player, trying to prepare them for, hey, it's time to kind of take the game a little more serious, that kind of thing. What do you look for in a player? When a kid comes to...
Hey, you took my question.
I'm sorry,
I was
man.
the exact same thing. Is what do you look for in a player?
Then finish it. Finish it for me.
No. You did it well.
Well, I think the biggest thing in my career that I've always lived by, and I learned it from the biggest influence in my life as a coach. The man's name is Ray Yacht. I don't know if you guys remember the Washington Federals in the USFL, but he was the head coach of the Federals. He's a Hall of Fame Canadian Football League coach. He's one of my closest, dearest friends. He's 80. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to make him too old, but I think he's like 84, 85, just somewhere in there. I just saw him 2 weeks ago as I was coming back from I went up to La Crosse to meet a friend, and I was coming back. I stopped in Madison. He's at a nursing home now. He just got put in 2 weeks ago. And funny story, I didn't tell him I was coming, but I'm going to surprise him. And he's the guy one of the 3 guys that invented the Arena League. He's the, and then who's the quarterbacks for the Rams that won all this? Kurt Warner. He's in the movie, that old guy teaching Kurt Warner how to get rid of the ball quick.
Yeah.
That's Ray with the Barnstormers. That's Ray. That's
wow.
Him, not him, but that's an actor. But
yeah.
But Ray is in Kurt Warner's book. He mentioned Ray. Ray is in a 59 Rose Bowl, played 2 ways, has a great connection with a lot of Viking guys. I got to meet a lot of former Viking coaches, Jerry Burns, Tom Moore. I rode with Tom Moore at Colts camp when I worked for the Colts one summer. He got me an opportunity to coach in Canada with the Toronto Argonauts. So, I mean, he's just an awesome dude. But I walk in to this facility and he's sitting in a chair and he's wearing a Winnipeg Blue Bombers jacket. And he's just sitting there it broke my heart, and then when he saw me, he just started crying and we hugged and I snuck him out for a few Diet Cokes as well. So I took him out of the place and we went out for wings and some Diet Cokes. But he always told me, get to your question. I know that was long-winded, but, I always tell my guys, don't tell me what the kids can't do. Tell me what they can do and coach them up. So I want kids that want to get better. And the 2018 team, a few of those guys, as freshmen, they're okay, right? But they became better. We coached them up. They wanted to be coached. So kids that are coachable, kids that want to put in the time, kids that want to work hard, I I always tried never to cut at the varsity level. You know that I kept as many kids as I could keep, because if you want to be around, you want to be in the program, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. A lot of kids cut themselves because they can't, adhere to what we need them to do. And so my biggest thing is, just kids that are coachable, kids that want to work, and kids that get better year to year. If you would have told me some of those kids on that 2018 pool were going to be that integral to our success, I would have said, you kidding me? But Justin was a varsity guy from day one. Pollocks were like, skinny kids that worked their butts off and coachable. Connor Blake, every year he got better, and his college career was tremendous. I mean, he was an All-American in college. So I mean, those are the kind of kids. That's what I look for kids. I mean, certainly it's nice to be a private school and recruit kids. That saying doesn't mean anything. If you're doing that, don't tell me what they can't do. Tell me what they can do, because it's their fault if they don't bring in guys that can play and do it their way. That's why they have an unfair advantage. And I'll go to my grave saying that they don't belong in our playoffs. They, it's the IHSA will never do that. But, we have to coach what comes in our doors. We can't even go to eighth grade and recruit these kids. We can't even go and say, here's what our program does. We can't do that. They can go in the doors and recruit these kids and get these kids in. They should be successful. If you're not successful at a private school, it's your own fault. But that's another topic too. I don't want to get on my soapbox on that, because it's taken a lot of opportunities for public school kids. A lot of, whatever. But
well, I think you had something there though. It's private schools. You're not limited by geography, right?
Right.
So you're limited
to a point. They are, but not.
But yeah, I mean, local geography maybe. That's about it.
Right.
But yeah. How challenging is it to have a conversation like that where, I guess you're trying to feel the best program you can, but you're at the mercy of whatever is in your district, I guess, right? Or whatever your constituents look like, right, for that school.
Right. I mean, it's, I was pretty lucky for most of my career at South. We had some really good kids, and we certainly lost some kids too. We lost, I have the story, the two kids that went to JCA when we had like those 5-6 kids that threw 90. We could have had, who's the catcher that went to Joliet Catholic? The Italian kid,
Nick D'Alessandro.
Yeah,
Nick D'Alessandro and Drake Fellows. Yes,
and
I remember both.
Nick wanted to come to South. I mean, he told his parents, I'm going to South. He wanted to play with Ritter. Him and Ritter were like best buddies. And I'll never forget the day we were doing the showcase at South. We used to do this big showcase at Plainfield South. It was like the biggest showcase, and every scout would come there. And so D'Alessandro's leaving, and I'm doing field work at the end of the showcase. And he says, hey, Coach Bodine, can I talk to you? Now, I really didn't know Nick, because we couldn't recruit kids and talk to him. So I said, yeah, sure, Nick. He's like, I just want to let you know that I wanted to come to Plainfield South. Now, this is a kid that played pro ball, and his best friend, which was one of Ritter's best friends, Drake Fellows, who's still pitching professional baseball. He said, I wanted to come to South really bad. He goes, actually, the day that school started, I came downstairs and my parents were like, no, my dad was like, in between. And then my mom was a Joliet Catholic grad. She wanted me to go there. And he said he kind of, I don't know if he left the house, whatever. Long story short, he goes, I wanted to come. He goes, but if I would have came, Drake Fellows would have came with me. Drake told me if I went to South, he'd go with me. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, man.
How crazy would that have been, But,
wow.
Well. So I don't know if I answered your question, Jeff, but.
No, you did. It's really not something, I guess, that it occurs to me. I'm not obviously in the life that you guys are.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an example, when I was at Mendota, Jason probably heard of Mendota because it's on a sign on 52 that says Mendota 53 miles. But when I was at Mendota, now we had one of the winningest back then. It was 2A and 1A. That's all. Now there's 4? How many classes are in baseball now? 4?
It's like 4. Yeah, I think it's 4.
4. So we were 1A. We were a school of like 500 kids. 4 times we lost to Driscoll in the playoffs, or a private school in the playoffs. Now we got a town of 6,200 people in our town, okay, in Mendota. Driscoll had a recruiting population of 800,000. Schaumburg, Arlington Heights, Elmhurst, Lombard, Glen, everywhere. That was their recruiting population. And our kids, were playing against these kids that, kind of an unfair advantage, but oh well, still had good times.
Yeah, no, I'm on your side on that one. I've argued with buddies and friends and things that, I think private school and public school in all sports, not just baseball, but in all sports should be separate for that exact reason. So let me ask you this, Coach. What in a player, what irritates you the most? We got what you look for. Now, what don't you look for?
Gosh, that's a tough one. Because I think by the time they make it through our program and they make it up as juniors and seniors, I think all that stuff is ironed out. You know what I mean? I think that our teams played their butts off. We're hustled down after they get a walk, back up, all the little things. So I don't know, if the kids are on the field and they're in our program, I think they're doing the things that we want them to do anyway. So I don't think, I couldn't be super picky to say, hey, I only want, guys that do this, guys do that. We have to coach them up. We got what we got. So, I think we did a pretty good job. The biggest thing in my career is I had awesome assistant coaches, Tony Felino, Chet Lyons. I don't want to start naming because then I forget. I just talked to one of my assistants from York, Chris Raffin. We were talking about some of our players we had at York and what they're doing now. And I had great assistant coaches, and that made our program successful. But to say, what don't I look for in a player? Number one, I think our kids know, what to do, what not to do. And, I think the biggest thing I could say about 2018 is they weren't selfish. They were the most unselfish team I've ever had. And they didn't care if they got the big hit. They were happy if Justin got the big hit. They were happy if Connor got the big hit. They were happy if, Griffin got all the accolades on the mound, whatever it was. They were brothers. And that was, I think that's most important.
Yeah. The takeaways that have stuck with me from those teams are, I loved that they always took the field together. They always stood on either first base or third base, waited for everybody, and then took the field together. It was always full sprint to positions. It wasn't just let's walk out on the field, all that kind of thing. And my favorite thing that they did was before every game, whether they were home or away, they would go out as a group into center field and just have their moment.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if it was on Northfield, if we're playing DeKalb, we're playing Naperville Central in the playoffs, whatever. They always had that, it maybe lasted 30 seconds, but they just had that moment on the field, and you could tell that all your teams were together. And I always thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you ever call for a pitcher to hit a player?
Never once.
Did a player ever go outside of that? And then I guess what's the conversation you have with a player if that happens?
If one of my kids did that, he'd come out of the game.
Really?
High school baseball, there's no place for it. Now, are there times to come inside and get kids off the plate? No doubt about it, but I've never called for a kid to hit anybody. It's not that important. It's just high school baseball. And so no, I would never do that. Never told a kid to go hard in a slide. Never told a kid to take anybody out. No.
What about new coaches coming into the space? What's a tip you've got for somebody who's getting into coaching or maybe early on in their coaching career?
I just sent a text to the young man that took over Plainfield South today, and I said the thing I told him in that, I don't know if that's great advice or not, but I just said, hey, I know you're starting tomorrow. I know a million things are going to be running through your head. I said, but take your time, put everything that you want in, and don't go fast. Go slow. If you think you're not getting things done in practice, that's okay. But you have to put all the things that you want from, when I coached, we practiced standing for the anthem. Our kids had to have their hat over their heart, their left hand behind their back. And I learned that from Bud Grant, the Minnesota Vikings in the 70s with Bud Grant. They stood on the sideline, they had their helmet in their right hand, left hand, and then had their hand on their heart. And they all stood up, and Bud Grant practiced that. And so I just told them not to go. Don't think you're not covering stuff. You're going to cover it. You have plenty of time. And like I always, and I use this, don't coach them up because they're all we got. And, but I just told them, don't rush. Cover the things you want to cover. It's your program. Write down the throw routine. Right down to, he's, I'm sure he's a young guy. He hasn't been in the game for 7-8 years. He's been out a little bit and he's going to do a great job. But I just told him, don't rush and don't think you're not covering stuff. Make sure they're doing it your way and don't, you got to be out there with them through throw routine. You got to be out there with them, when you're doing your fielding drills and your hitting drills. Take your time. I just think that's it. And the biggest thing with young coaches now, number one is it's changed. There's not a lot of guys that are doing 34 years as a head coach, like I did. There's not a lot of guys that stay in it that long. Number one, the pay is not great. Number two, I do have some regrets. I was gone when I was an adult. I coached 3 sports and then I did USA baseball for 7 years in the summer. So I was gone all the time. And I think you have to have that balance with your family, and that's most important. And I regret that I didn't do that. And I eventually, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I apologized to my son and I said, hey, I'm sorry, that I wasn't there a lot. I was selfish. And I regret that. I regret being selfish and leaving every summer and going to Mexico and Venezuela and coaching all these great kids that I got up on the wall in here. But I apologized to him and I said, I was sorry your dad was selfish. So make time for your family. These young coaches have to make time for their family. That's most important. And my son said, I've been waiting to hear that. And I never realized that he felt that way. He said, Dad, thank you for saying that. I've been waiting to hear that. And he goes, I don't begrudge you for doing that. I mean, he's successful. He's a principal. He's doing great. But, and he's a great father. And hopefully he learned that from me because he spends a ton of time with his kids. And that's one regret. So, I get the young coaches and coaches aren't doing a lot because it is a lot. I mean, it's a year-round job and it's a lot of time away from your family. So hopefully the new coach, Keith Halverson, can make his family a part of it and have him there and be at the games and go to his kids' games. And one practice isn't going to hurt if you go see your kid play ball or go see your son. So, yeah.
No, I know occasionally we saw your family at games every so often, we'd see somebody at the games and you always promoted family atmosphere and stuff like that. Speaking of family, one thing I'll always be grateful for is you allowed my kids to kind of overlap with each other. I mean, Jeremy and Justin played together for a summer, and then Jeremy spent some time with the varsity squad towards the end of Justin's senior year. And then, Jeremy then moved up, and then Joshua got to spend some time. I think we were done with summer ball at that point, but Joshua got to spend a little bit of time in the later part of Jeremy's senior year up on the varsity. Right. Talk to me about what it was like, what the difference is between, I see these 3 every day. Well, not anymore, but I deal with them pretty much every day. So what was it like to coach 3 brothers? I know you've had other brothers go through the program and stuff like that, but what was it like to coach my 3?
They were certainly all 3 totally different from each other. Okay. Justin was like a coach on the field. He was like totally locked in. one of my most favorite guys to coach. Jeremy was as quiet as could be. Worked hard, worked his tail off, barely spoke, quiet, hard worker. And then the opposite. The opposite, I'd say. He was, I don't know what the proper word would be, squirrely out there, but super talented. I think he could be a really, really good player still. And I don't think he got all he could have got out of himself in high school. And I think he could be, I know he's at JJC right now. I don't know how that's going. He is. But honestly, so much talent because he could run, strong arm, could drive the ball. I'm sure he's putting on weight as he becomes an adult now and a man.
Yeah.
And probably getting in the weight room because he has to. Three totally different young men and great kids. And all three bought into the program. All three played their butts off. All three, I remember every last game, that we played. And when the kids come up and give you a hug and see how they're heartbroken, I usually have a moment with every senior. I have a picture with Justin where we're hugging and Felino's watching from behind when we lost the Central.
I know the picture.
And I remember hugging Justin. I remember hugging Jeremy and Joshua. And they all three were like brokenhearted. You know what I mean? Like, how much it meant to them, how much they loved the game. And those boys loved baseball. And but I remember those times. It was you did a great job for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. That's not why I brought them up. I wanted to tell you that I wanted to tell you that every time we bring up your name, it's always, oh, my guy, Bodine, coach, all, this, you were, big, real huge positive influence for all three of them. And I would say the word for Joshua, he's a lightning rod.
He's all over the place, but I loved him, man. He was great. And he wasn't afraid to.
Yeah, he loves to live life in all parts of it. You know what I'm saying?
But you can't ask for more. And, I've had some brothers play for me and sets of brothers and stuff. And that's always fun, but they're all different in their own special way for sure.
So I know this is like your first off season without going into a new season. You just mentioned that you texted Coach Halverson yesterday. Do you miss it yet? Or is it too early to tell?
Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty good, I guess since I've been texting my coaches and some coaches that are starting tomorrow and saying, hey, good luck tomorrow and have fun, blah, blah, blah. Talking to my pitching coach, he just got a job at West Chicago. So I guess maybe it's in my mind, but like tomorrow we would have practice at 5 a.m. I know they're going later in the day because of conflict with facilities, but I wouldn't sleep a wink tonight. I'd be up all night. I'd be sitting here, practice plan. I've been doing it for 34 years. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't think so. I had my fill. I've been around it. I want to do some different things. I want to go to spring training like I'm going to do. I want to see some of my kids coach and play in college. We got, get up to Minnesota and see Jeremy. Maybe go to, Viking shop and get some new gear, but
we'll get to them in a minute.
All right. Well, I do have some notes and stuff. So, so no, to answer your question, I think I'm okay now. Once the season starts, or maybe next year rolls around, I'll be like, okay, I want to get back. I've had some opportunities to coach. I had an opportunity to coach at North Park with Luke Johnson, with one of my former players. He's the head coach at North Park, and he tried to get me to coach, and I actually decided to take it. And that night, I was like, looking at their pictures online, looking at video. What am I going to do at first practice? Here's my opening speech to the pitchers. And I'm like, what am I doing? Driving myself. I'm going crazy again. I want to, so I called them the next day, said, I'm not doing it. So we'll see. But right now, no, the biggest thing that I'm not going to miss, freezing my ass off. It's the worst. It's the worst. And I don't know why Illinois high school baseball doesn't start 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later and just run into a little bit in the summer. Because I guess they doesn't really care about baseball. That's probably why.
Well, if it started later, it would just be colder longer. So thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. You're right. Yeah, you're right. I see 60s coming here in about 7 days. So that'd be nice.
We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So last baseball related question for you. So a majority of the time that you coached at South, you still lived in Mendota, and you mentioned the 53-mile trek. Rumor has it that you spent a few nights in the box behind the plate as opposed to going home. So there's a nice, comfortable couch up there, as opposed to driving all the way home and coming back the next day. Is that true? Did you ever spend a night in the score box?
In the press box?
Yes.
There's a strong possibility. Yeah, strong possibility. But I will say this, when I was at York, now driving from Mendota to Elmhurst was like an hour and 45 minutes, and I did that. I definitely stayed at school, and they were aware of it. So yeah, I stayed there 3-4 nights a week and just slept upstairs in my office, get up in the morning, take a shower, go to practice. And, yeah, I remember one night there'd be delivery trucks late at night and they'd come. So I would go downstairs and help the maintenance guys out because we were buddies because, I'm up there sleeping, watching ESPN on my TV and stuff, ordering pizza, whatever. And, I'm sleeping and I hear this like shaking and stuff. So I'm like, oh, it must be a delivery. So I walk down and I find out in the news that we had that earthquake, if you remember, back in 2006 or 7 or something. We had it was an earthquake. It wasn't a truck delivery, but I remember that. But yeah, sometimes the drive is rough, but well.
A long commute sucks. I did that going from Barrington to Racine every day for a couple of years.
Oh, really?
And that's a long commute too. So
yeah,
I feel your pain.
And what you do is you put on weight because you're eating shitty. You're eating in your car. You're eating crappy food. You're sitting in a car. It's not good for your body. God bless truck drivers. That's a tough job. But yeah, so it's rough. The commute is rough.
I knew it. I knew I was right on that one. That's so funny. I'm sure there was a Diet Coke or two.
I did stay some other places too.
I heard that. That's for another day.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's shift because, I know you're a big baseball guy, but you're also probably the biggest Minnesota Vikings fan I know. So, Jeff, Bears fan, Phil, Vikings fan, talk to us about it. Where are we at?
Let's start with how are you?
I got all my Viking stuff here.
Yeah, we know.
Got Fran Tarkenton over there. So, yeah, I'm a big Viking fan.
So what's the source of this? How did you become a Vikings fan?
Yeah, so I grew up in North Lake, Franklin Park, Melrose Park by O'Hare Airport. And in the 70s, the Bears would always get blacked out because they never sold out their home games. So 8 games a year, Bears were awful still. But
here we go.
Just kidding. So they would always black out the games. So the Vikings won 11 out of 13 divisions from late 60s to early 70s. And the Vikings were good, and Tarkenton and Foreman and Jeff Seaman and Wally Hilgenberg, Marshall, Page, Elder, and Sutherland and all those guys. Mick Tingelhoff. I got an autographed picture of Mick Tingelhoff in my garage. But anyway, you know who Mick Tingelhoff is? He was starting center for the Vikings. Finally got in the Hall of Fame and couldn't give his speech because he had dementia. So Tarkenton gave his speech, which Mick Tingelhoff should have been in a long time ago. He was a center. He was a long snapper. He was a pro, like an all-pro, 15 out of 16 years. But anyway, nobody remembers Mick Tingelhoff because he was the center. But so the games would get blacked out. My older brother, Greg, was a Viking fan. So just became a Vikings fan, and thank God, but maybe. But my grandkids, my oldest grandson is a huge Vikings fan. He texts me at like 5 a.m. Who are we going to get in the draft? My 5-year-old grandson is a huge Vikings fan. He's got all the Viking jerseys. Last New Year's Eve, I took my oldest grandson up to the New Year's Eve game against the Packers, which didn't go well, but we had an awesome trip. My son's a Vikings fan. His wife's a Vikings fan. And so that's how I became a Viking fan.
All right, let me start with the Sam Darnold question. You resign him?
No. Well, I think they're going to resign him and trade him to the Raiders.
Really?
Yeah, I think who's the guy from the Seahawks that's their coach now?
Pete Carroll.
I think he really likes Sam Darnold, and I think it's going to be a sign and trade. Yeah.
And then what? It's JJ McCarthy time?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Assuming he's healthy to get back on the field.
He's already put on 20 pounds. He looked really skinny on the sideline. He lost some weight because he was able to do stuff, but the kid's a winner. The kid throws a great ball. I know it's a preseason game, but his preseason game that he did play, I mean, he looked tremendous. He moved in the pocket. You think he's a small guy, but he's not. He's like 6'4". I mean, he can throw the ball, run. And the bottom line is he's not going to have to do a ton. I mean, they have Hawkinson, Jefferson, Addison. They're going to have to shore up their offensive line, which I think, everybody wanted Trey Smith. That wasn't going to happen for anybody. But there are some good guys out there, in the draft as well. I think the Vikings are going to take a defensive tackle. But there's some linemen out there that can shore up their offensive line. But, he's got weapons. I mean, Sam Darnold had the only year of his career, and it's because you could throw to guys like that. And they have a quarterback, head coach who is an awesome, they call him the quarterback whisperer. I mean, he's taken guys. Kirk Cousins was pretty damn good with the Vikings, even though, he didn't win, whatever. And I don't think that's totally on a quarterback. But he's a great coach, and I think him and JJ, they've been there the whole year. I think that was kind of a blessing in disguise. He was able to sit back and see everything from the sidelines, see everything and everything it takes to be an NFL quarterback, and he got to do that without having to be rushed and get on the field. So I think McCarthy's going to be good enough this first year, and I think he's going to finally get a Super Bowl before I die.
How about that first year learning? It just doesn't happen anymore. Jason, you and I have talked about this in prior conversations where most teams today, when they're drafting, especially a high round quarterback, is the expectation is that they're playing right away. And I remember growing up, it would be 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes before
exactly
would play.
Yeah.
I mean, the only team that seems to not follow that script is Green Bay. I mean, they drafted Rodgers and he sat for 3 years. They drafted Jordan Love. He sat for 3 years, but everybody else
was in front of them both
well,
times.
If you think about Favre as well, I mean, he went from Atlanta. He sat, didn't play there, and then certainly went there and had his best year as a Viking, though. 33 touchdowns, 7 picks. That was his best statistic. And if it wasn't for the bounty on it, it's just awful. But anyway, we don't talk Vikings here.
What are your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers?
I got a good story about Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. Yeah, hit me.
I'm a big book reader. I'm actually reading a book right now called Ghost Rider. It's I'm a big music person, and it's a book written by Neil Peart. So I read a lot of books, and
love that.
Neil Peart's the best drummer ever, and I love Rush. I'm sure you either like Rush or hate Rush.
Love Rush.
Hanging out with somebody, right? And but it's one of my favorite bands. But I love the question now. What was the question?
Aaron Rodgers story. Aaron Rodgers.
So there's a book written by an offensive lineman for New England, and I can't think of his name. I have the book in the other room. Read it years ago, but I keep him. I don't know why I should give him away, but anyway, and he's an offensive lineman, and it's about his struggle to come out, his sexuality. So his beard, they call it a beard when you hide behind something. They call it a beard, and his beard was football. And when he was done playing football, he was going to end his life because he didn't know how to deal with it, with what was going on. And one of his best friends in high school, they played at opposing schools, but they ended up playing at Cal together, Aaron Rodgers and him. This is in the book. I'm not making this. You can't make this up. It's so bad. But they were friends. They would have, dinner at their houses, holidays, whatever. Good friend. And so at the end of this man's career, he had finished up with the Indianapolis Colts. And he gets in touch with Rodgers. And Rodgers, so the young man got help. He came out. It was in the news. He got to somebody who could help him through all this, and he was he was good. And so he wants to do something after his playing career is over. So he asks Aaron to kind of front some money to get a hotel, like a resort in Reno. He's got this place. He's going to rehab. He's a really handy guy. And, you're going to rehab this hotel and make it kind of a resort. So Aaron said, whatever you need, you just tell me and I got you. So him coming out was after this. So he comes out and it's big news and he's getting ready to do this big thing with the hotel. So after he had come out, he called Rodgers, nothing, totally ghosted him. And that was it. So the last paragraph in the book, he talks about all the people who supported him and who, stood by him. And he said, as of this day, Aaron still has not spoken to me. Said a lot to me.
I got to tell you,
Aaron Rodgers is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, pretty much. I thought
you were going to watch him sign with the Vikings now. I'll be so pissed.
Well, I think he's a cancer. I mean, personally and professionally, I don't know why any team would want to pick him up right now.
Coach, I thought you were going to give us this big tearjerker of a story.
I know. I was like, don't you make me like him.
I'm like, don't you make me like him. Please don't do it. Because I think that dude is a freak show. And you definitely support him with that story. Because, I can't stand anything that has to do with him.
I wish I knew the title of the book, but it's a really good book. But
all right. So what's your prediction for the Vikings this coming season?
I think they're going to 10 wins, and I think they'll be better. They have the 5th most money under the cap. So they have the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, in my opinion. I think they're going to sign the safety from the Dolphins, Trayvon Holland, who played for Flores. Their defense is going to be better. They're going to shore up the offensive line. They're not going to win 14 games. That's crazy, but they will be better and they'll be better. They'll be ready to win a playoff game or two or whatever. But, I think they'll win 10 games.
Do you think the NFC North will be as competitive as it was this last year, with the exception of the Chicago Bears?
No, I think the Bears they're gonna be better just because the guy running the show, but they still have the clowns in their front office and ownership. But and I like George McCaskey. The guy is probably the best umpire I ever had in high school as a coach. He umps high school baseball games and he's legit good. Like he's a really good umpire. But whatever, McCaskey, I don't know what the deal is there, but they got a really good professional coach. They got a running backs coach that's going to kick ass. The running backs coach that they hired, the enemy, he coached Adrian Peterson when he had his best years in Minnesota, 2,000 yards, and he's going to be on them. And they're going to draft the kid from Boise. That's my feeling. Bears are going to get a running back, and that's going to suck. Because that kid's good. And
you think they're going to draft Genty, huh? Wow.
100%. I think they can get an offensive lineman in the second round. I know they need an offensive lineman and everybody's talking about a tackle. But man, if you Detroit, their head coach now, the Detroit guy, and they had 2 running backs, and that made that offense go because you had to bring people up, and that's going to help your quarterback out right now. I wanted to say Fields. I'm losing his name right now. But
Caleb?
That's gonna help your quarterback. But yeah, I think they're gonna take Gentry. That's just my feeling. But they're gonna be better just by virtue of they got a guy that knows how to coach a quarterback as their head coach. That was the problem. Their head coach was a good defensive coordinator.
Talk about Eberflus.
Yeah, in a perfect world, it would have been nice to say, hey, we don't want you to be the head coach, but would you be the defensive coordinator? They probably would have taken a step up next year. I don't know who they hired as their D coordinator now, but they're going to be good. I mean, you know.
Do you think the Lions will be as good with the losses that they've had now at the coaching level?
Well, the meathead up there, I don't like him.
Dan Campbell?
Like yeah.
He might bite your kneecap on the way up.
Yeah, I know. I guess it's kind of like what Ozzie Guillen used to say about Pierzynski. You hate him when he's your opponent. You hate him a little less when he's your teammate. I think that's kind of Dan Campbell. Like if he was your coach, he'd probably be all in. He's tough and all that. But I just think it's going to hurt him. You know, they lost the defensive coordinator. They lost, and I think your guy, he took a few of the coaches too with him.
Yes.
So Campbell's going to be on his own, but they're good too. I mean, the North is really good, and you know, there's no easy game. You know, there's no easy game in that conference. But we'll see.
Let me ask you this:
be fun.
As an outsider looking in, what is, and let's just focus on this last NFL season. You see the Chicago Bears and you see what they've struggled in. What is your perception of the Chicago Bears as a Vikings fan? Like, what do you think? Do you think the problem was the coaching? Is it ownership? Does the offensive line look as bad to you as it does to me and Jay as Bears fans?
Yeah. The biggest problem, it's sad to say, but the worst ownership in Chicago isn't that ownership, though, which is sad to say as a White Sox Bulls fan. You know, I watched the Bulls today. It's just like, what the heck? But yeah, I think it's a combination. But I truly believe their offensive scheme and their offense was just not very good. And the kid had good numbers too. You know, they're the only team in the NFL, I believe, that hasn't had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards ever. You know. I just think the running game was terrible, and I think Swift's a pretty good running back. You know,
he's paid like one.
They never use their tight end, and I think he's good. I don't think he's a top 5 tight end like somebody said a few weeks ago, but
I top 10. I give him. He's top 10.
Okay.
Come on. Although we would never know because they never threw to him.
Right, and I think he's really good. You know, and I think they never use him. That's a problem. The Vikings, use Hickenson. You know, I know he came back after a horrific injury, but they've always used their tight ends way back to Stu Voigt days. But you guys don't remember Stu Voigt, you're too young. But yeah, I think they're going to be better just by virtue of they got good coaches. I think that's huge. You know.
So let's put your coach hat on. You've been hired for whatever crazy reason as the Chicago Bears' new head coach going into this next season. What are your top 3 things that you do as a coach?
It's hard to say discipline in the NFL because that's hard to do, right?
But I think that's valid.
But I think you can, you know, and I think, you know, I don't think, you know, if it was me, probably not. They'd turn me off because they're like, where have you coached? But if a guy that comes in with a little pedigree and a little background, and I think that's important. And I think I watch the Vikings more than I should, and I watch all their locker room stuff. And last year, Kevin O'Connell had an atmosphere in his program and his team that is unlike any. You know, like Zimmer was the opposite. When Zimmer was there, the feeling in that locker room was like the defense, like it worked for the 85 Bears. The defense was against the offense. Buddy hated Mike hated, you know what I mean? It worked because they were super, they overcame that because they were just super talented. And one Super Bowl was a travesty, I believe. But so I think that's the biggest part getting guys to buy in the NFL is important. And Kevin O'Connell, like when Zimmer left, Cousins became a much better quarterback because he gave him love. Now he worked his ass off. He certainly still took off Mondays and Tuesdays, which you saw in the documentary. But their locker room was so close and tight. The running back, 33, I can't think of his name now, got from the Packers. He loved it there.
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. So I think that's number one is most important, is getting those guys to buy in, getting those guys to do that. Game is so hard. I mean, I was around professional football for 2 summers. I coached in Canada with the Toronto Argonauts with Ray. And then I roomed with Tom Moore with the Indianapolis Colts. It's not easy. And those guys got to be students of the game, unless you're just extra talented. He's like Randy Moss, probably didn't have to be a student of the game because he was just a freak. But the time and the effort, you got to sit on that iPad, learn the game and learn tendencies. And when a guy's fingers are, turning red, might make it to run because the offensive lineman's leaning forward and his fingers are red and his fingers are light and white. Probably going to be, all those little things. You got to be a student of the game. And, I think that's why that coaching staff is going to help them. But I just see buying in. And then certainly number 3, it's a talent game. You know what I mean? Bottom line, it's talent and guys to bring in. And I don't know if a lot of guys wanted to come to Chicago. Number 1, maybe because of ownership. But number 2, because who's going to, I was surprised that they signed a receiver, the kid from San Diego.
Pretty good
half. Yeah. I mean, I think your guy liked to throw to him more than he should have. But anyway.
He was a safety blanket for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And, who wants to come and play there? Like quarterbacks, even backups want to go to Minnesota because even if they sit a year, like Daniel Jones, he may come back as a backup, but teams are going to say, hey, he sat up there with Kevin O'Connell and he got coached up and now we're going to take a chance. Or if JJ gets hurt, Jones is going to go in there and probably do a great job. So I think the coaching staff and the buy-in is, I think the Bears are going to be so much better because they have that. And that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, we talked about Darnold as probably, whether, like you said, it's sign and trade or just as a free agent. I mean, he's going to get paid thanks to Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah,
he's going to make some good money.
He's going to get at least 160 of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
something to seize at. I'll take 160 and sit on a bench. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll do it. I'll give you a discount. I'll do it for 100.
You want a little Vikings trivia? You want one trivia question?
Sure.
Yes.
Don't know if I can answer it, but sure.
Okay. Who invented the Nerf football?
Oh, I just
feel like I
came
know
across this not long ago, and dang, I'm not going to come up with it.
Okay.
It was one of the Vikings players, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, it's Fred Koss, the kicker. One off season, He was trying to practice inside because I think it's cold in Minnesota, and he was trying to practice inside, so he cut some styrofoam that was kicking and whatever, and then brought it to, let's say it was Mattel, and they bought it, but Mattel made a mistake when they signed his contract. They usually, when you sign a contract for a toy, you invent a toy, they do it for like 3 to 5 years. Toys usually don't last over 2-3 years. So you get residuals for 2 or 3 years and then residuals stop. The toys not selling. Remember Super Toe? That's no longer.
Oh, yeah.
Electric football. But anyway, Mattel didn't put anything in there. Didn't put any like 2 to 3 years. So he got residuals. He just recently passed. He got residuals his whole life. Him and his other buddy, they got residuals from Nerf. They were like multi-millionaires because Nerf, everything Nerf, you got residuals on because it started with that football and then big bang boom. Yeah.
Wow.
Good, funny trivia, Viking trivia.
That's a classic. Damn, why didn't I think of that?
Right.
leave it to kickers. They got plenty of time to think about stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Well, I see one of the Vikings punters is in trouble in California. Just got arrested.
Yeah,
Cluey.
Yep.
Chris Cluey.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't want to get into politics, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
It just made me upset, and I'll start swearing even more.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let's talk about another thing that might make Jeff a little bit upset. Let's talk about the departure of Debo to Washington. Did you see that? For a fifth rounder. Come on,
you know
man.
what?
Yeah.
I'm a Niners fan too, so that's
I know.
For a while. And I look, they have too many players to sign. Somebody had to go, and I get it. It hurts, but I get it. Now the problem is that they have other players. They have Ayuk is coming off an injury. I think he's also looking for a new contract.
He is.
Kittle's not getting any younger. And it doesn't matter who's the running back there. McCaffrey's McCaffrey, but he's coming off of, a terrible year. Madden first, maybe. So I don't know. And, Purdy is up for a new contract as well. So they're at a pivotal moment here. If they don't play this offseason right, they're going to backslide big time.
I think Shanahan, and I like him.
I like him too.
His dad actually went to my high school. But anyway, neither here nor there.
Oh, how old are you? Jeez.
I didn't go to high school with him.
Okay.
Brother did, but
okay, all right.
Shanahan his father went to my high school. Yeah.
I was like, you're looking pretty good for 120.
Yeah. I'm going to be 60 in a couple months. So anyway, but those are some. Yeah, I don't know. Niners.
I think there was a lot of
somebody. You're right.
Yeah, I think it's just in today's NFL, you can't keep teams together, right? It's not a Dodgers situation where you can just defer contracts forever.
Yeah,
crazy.
You have to play with the rules of and players want more money. I mean, the salary goes up every year, but it's just really hard to keep a strong team even together.
Yeah,
it's just rare.
Like I was saying, I think if Shanahan doesn't get it done this year, though, I think I don't know. You
think he's on the hot seat?
I think so. Yeah.
So I think he got. I give him a pass this year because of the injuries. They had a terrible year of injuries. That's
right.
I mean, it's hard to play any professional sport at that level and lose. Your top 5 players were all gone.
Right. Kind of like my DePaul Blue Demons. They got 3 guys hurt this year, and they're bad. But I watch every game. We don't want to talk DePaul basketball, but I love that team. Had it rolling for the 70s and 80s. But anyway, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, here's my last question for you, Coach. Since it was kind of briefly brought up just a second ago, what's your take on the LA Dodgers and what they've done? Because as an avid listener, you get to hear every episode of Who Did the Dodgers Sign every week. And obviously they've deferred a lot of money. They've got a high payroll. They're paying out. I mean, it's over $1 billion worth of contracts that they have coming their way. What do you think of all that?
I think it's great. Baseball's not going to put any parameters on it, technically. They're getting around it. They got an owner.
A lot of people don't think it's fair. A lot of people don't think it's fair.
Well, it's.
When you say it's great, it's because they're playing the game based on the rules that exist today, right?
Yeah, their owners want to win. God, if I pray that this guy that's talking about maybe getting majority ownership of the White Sox, I pray that he gets it. And if he spends $1 gazillion, so what? That's their money. I mean, but
already billion. So who cares?
Yeah, and they're making money. If owners tell you they're losing money, they're making money.
Sure.
They may show you the books that they're not, but they're making money. TV deals are crazy. So yeah, I don't. That's the way it is. I'm all for it because I love our owner to do something.
From a competitive standpoint, though, I feel like this hurts the game long term, and it creates an uneven playing field. I feel like there's certain markets, certain teams that cannot compete.
They have no chance.
Right.
Yeah. No
and
chance.
So every year, if it's just the Dodgers, or even if it was Chicago Cubs, I mean, obviously I would care less at that point, right? But even if it's your home team, right? It's fun when you're the winning team, but you've got 30 plus other teams that are in any league that are not in favor of that.
Well, that's the job of the guy that makes a ton of money to sit down in the off season and make some parameters. So maybe you can't backlog this money 35 years, or you can't, I mean, they got to fix it, because you're right. It's no fun. They're going to win 100 games without even trying. I mean, I watched the Sox game today. They rolled out 4 guys out of their bullpen that were guys in their bullpen last year. And it was like, one guy was 5-1 with a 2.34. One guy was 7-1 with all their middle relievers throwing 95, 97. And it's just like, and that's their middle relievers. That's not their guys. They had a split squad today.
Yeah, they're also split squad. So yeah, that's
right.
crazy.
Yeah. And it's just like, and then the White Sox, I mean, they're not going to hit. They're going to have no offense. I love their pitching. I love their young pitching that they have. But, yeah.
What would you do to fix it? Would you say, like you said, a cap on the number of years something could be deferred? Would you ban deferred contracts? I mean, what you guys are the baseball guys. I am not, but how would you guys fix it?
Yeah, I don't know, Jason. I think you got to do something with the deferred contracts. That's how they're getting them all in, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then they're paying the luxury tax, right?
They're paying the luxury tax. They have, what is it? It's like $1.8 billion committed to contracts, and over $1 billion of it is deferred. And yeah, not all teams can do that. And I mean, we're looking at a probable work stoppage in baseball after the 2026 season, because the collective bargaining agreement comes up. And I'm sure that this will be a huge point of contention in those negotiations. So I'm sure something's going to happen in 2 years. It's just a matter of how long that work stoppage happens, because I'm sure, the players don't want to give, because the players obviously want to make as much money as they can, no matter what way they're paid. And, every other professional league has a salary cap where baseball does not. And it's going to be tough to come to a deal. And we could be looking at a long work stoppage in Major League Baseball in 2 years. I have a feeling. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's hard to back up on these things. When you give somebody this, now you got to back up, say, now we're not going to do this. Like when you're raising kids, you can watch TV, but now you can't do it. It's hard to go back. So it's going to be hard.
There will be a contracts are decades long. So what do? Just say you can't do it anymore?
Right.
Yeah. It's just here. Yeah. From now on, this isn't allowed, but you have to let those contracts clear, right? They're contracts.
Right.
Well, it's tough because you got the Dodgers in their situation, yet you've got a team a couple 100 miles north that's playing in a minor league stadium in Sacramento, because they're having a stadium that's being built in Las Vegas, but because they had to move because they weren't generating enough money in Oakland. And I think the capacity of that stadium is like 13,000 or something like that. And they have to be there. I think it's for 3 years. So how is that franchise going to generate the money that the Dodgers do? There's no way. So.
Yeah. And then I think the Rays are playing in a small park too, aren't they? 10,000?
Yeah. They're playing at, I think it's the Yankees spring training stadium.
Yeah. Steinbrenner. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough. And I know there's revenue sharing with the TV contracts and all that, but concessions, ticket sales, swag, all that stuff plays a part of it. And it's just not even. I think it's impossible to make it all even, but it's tough.
Yeah. So. Yeah. It's a problem. You're right. It's like, it's a problem. But White Sox got their own problems.
They wish they had that problem of too much money.
Right.
I just want to see them win 50 games. Will they win 50 games? Because that would be a 10-game improvement over last year. So
you said the Cubs are going to be good this year. Why?
I like their coach. I like their manager. I think their pitching staff, I think, is better. And I thought they were going to be good last year. I really did. honestly, I don't watch a ton of the Cubs just because. But I just think they got a good team. I think they really do. For no reason other than I like their coach, and I think he'll get it done. I think he's top 5 manager in the league, and they won't have another year under him like that.
So you think there might be a chance? Enough. There might be a chance that I'll be actually turning on a baseball game in September next year.
Yeah, you'll probably see some playoffs, I think. Yeah.
All right.
Sad to say. But yeah.
Pains you as a Sox fan?
It does. Yeah.
No. So how do you feel about, I think there's a lot of people who are Chicago fans, and I feel like Jason's one of those. And I am of the opinion that you have to pick a team in Chicago. Where do you fall on that side?
100%. I've hated the Cubs since
I love it.
And I technically grew up on the north side. I would drive my bike to Addison bus stop and take the bus to Cub games. And I took Freddie Fender's hand. What? No, Freddie Fender? No.
I've heard that name.
Before the next teardrop falls. Well, Freddie Fender was a singer.
No.
Yeah, Before the Next Teardrop Falls. Never heard that song? No. Anyway.
No.
I got to find it. Freddie Fender. I'm going to look this up.
Freddie Fender, yeah. Tex-Mex music.
Okay, so the first thing is if you're listening at home to this, you need to Google Freddie Fender, because the first image that comes up is absolutely glorious. This is a full head of hair man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So, yeah, and I used to go watch the Cubs and watch Jerry Morales and Jose Cardinal and, Dave Kingman, all those guys. But I don't think you can be both. I know a lot of people, I guess you can, but I've had a thing in I can't say that, but I have a thing in my behind. All right. I have a thing behind my wallet, and I've had it in there since I got my driver's license, since I was 16. So that's 1981. And it says, I'd rather have a sister in a whorehouse than a brother who's a Cub fan. And that's been behind my wallet my whole life. And I know that's terrible, and I apologize, but it's just a little funny joke. It's laminated. I've had it there since 1981. And all my friends
I appreciate that. I got a lot of respect for that, because I feel like this is a hill that I will die on, is you have to pick a team. You cannot be a fan of both.
I agree. When those guys say I like both, I think sometimes they don't really care.
Jay, I feel like we're attacking you, Jay, here, because I know
it's okay.
I know you're a Sox fan, but you are a little bit of both.
Okay, all right. Here,
well, because I think I know why. Because
you like the sport.
Aren't one of your sons a Cub fan?
Okay, so Justin's a Cub fan.
Yeah.
Jeremy's a Sox fan, and Joshua is a Washington Nationals fan, and that's only because
you don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't. One, he doesn't know anything. Two, he always was a big Bryce Harper guy when he was little, and he loved watching Max Scherzer. So when he was with the Nationals, but anyway, So I grew up liking the Cubs because they were the ones that were on TV when I got home from school. WGN, they were always on. So I like the Cubs. I love the Sox. There's just something about White Sox baseball. It's blue collar. The old Comiskey Park, I loved going there. The 83 team winning ugly. That was so fun. But I like watching the Cubs because it's good baseball. Watching the Sox the last few years has not been good baseball, and it's just disappointing. Whereas watching the Cubs, they're at least competitive. So I guess maybe I enjoy watching the game sometimes more when it's the Cubs. But yeah, my allegiance was with the Sox. I mean, obviously, if they've played in the World Series, yeah, I'm going with the black and white of the White Sox, man.
So good news. You don't have to worry about that for a little while.
No, probably not.
One of the highlights of me watching the Cubs, one of my favorite moments, is Leon Durham missing a ground ball. That was great.
In San Diego? Yes.
Yeah. I remember where I was. I was like, yes, the Padres thing happened very good.
Hey, I have many anti-Cub memories that I can. Obviously, the Bartman thing. Will Clark just taking Greg Maddux to school in the playoffs. Steve Garvey hitting the home run in those 84 playoffs that, pretty much just clinched it. And yeah, there's a ton of Cub moments that are bad that I remember. But I also remember the Sandberg game. Everybody knows the Sandberg game. We were watching that live on Game of the Week against
it was
the
a
Cardinals.
Saturday game against the Cardinals.
And people forget.
Channel 5.
Yeah, people forget that Willie McGee hit for the cycle in that game, went 5 for 6 with like 6 RBIs or whatever. Nobody ever talks about it because it was the Sandberg game. So, I just really appreciate good baseball wherever it's played. I don't, whatever. Like, my favorite player of all time is Don Mattingly. Why? Because when he played and was at his peak, he was by far the best player in the game when he played for the Yankees. But I loved him because he was left-handed. He played the occasional second base. He played third base. I just loved everything that guy did. So if it's good baseball, I'm watching it.
Well, it's like you'll be watching more Cubs games. You'll be watching more Cubs games this year.
Well, I do not have the Marquee Network, so no, I won't.
I'm going to see a bad team tomorrow night.
Oh, who's that?
Who just traded one of their better players for a first-round pick and a goalie. Go to see the Blackhawks tomorrow night.
Oh, the Blackhawks. There you go. Yeah, Seth Jones, a little underappreciated because I know he took a lot of crap, but he's pretty good.
I like him. As a player. Yeah, I mean, they certainly, giving up a first-round pick and a goalie who's, whatever. But
yeah, now they have 4 goalies on the roster. One has been, they signed as a free agent and has been hurt.
It'd be great
all
if
year.
they could put them all in the net at the same time. They do okay.
Yeah, right.
Form a wall. Yeah, I haven't followed the Hawks for a while, but I'm 100% convinced that playoff hockey in Chicago is the best sporting event in town for sure, but might be one of the best sporting events that I've ever been to in any town.
The most exciting sporting event that you can go to in person, I believe, is playoff hockey.
What is it that makes it so different? Because I've been to plenty of Hawks games, but playoff hockey is just a different level.
You know what playoff hockey is like? Playoff hockey is like what we saw last week. USA, Canada. Yeah. Those guys, I know we're off topic here, but I don't know, whatever.
There are no topics. This is FOJ.
You just tell me to shut up, but I'll tell you what.
No.
I love hockey. I watch hockey and blah, blah, blah. But those guys, in my opinion, are the most down-to-earth professional athletes. Okay. Good dudes, good families. And I'm not saying other athletes aren't other sports, but those guys, that's an all-star game. That meant nothing, right? They played their ass off. Some guys got hurt and maybe for a season. It was just amazing. And I remember my mom was a season ticket holder in the 70s with Keith Magnuson, Pitt Martin, Tony Esposito. I got a great Tony Esposito story for another day. But those guys, are just, I just think they're such down-to-earth guys, more so than any other professional sport. And the way they played that game, they were playing like it was playoff hockey. And that's what makes playoff hockey so exciting and so different. And it's the fastest, hardest hitting game of all sports. And in person, in that stadium, the old days now, it's still sell the damn thing out, just like the Bulls. You know what I mean? Because it's a habit. And it's a great game. I'm sure it won't be from tonight, but
the good old days.
Yeah.
Where were you when what's his name? Patrick Kane scored that game-winning goal for their first championship, or first cup, I would call it. And he was the only player on the ice that knew it went in. And everyone was kind of like, wait, that went in? I remember very clearly. I was sitting on the couch at home with my wife, and I saw it immediately. I was like, he scored. Or I was like, yes. And was like, wait, did he or did he not? Where were you when that happened?
The angle of that shot, and I know exactly where I was. I was on my couch with my stepdaughter. She was on the other couch. I was on this couch, and we watched all the playoff games together. She loved hockey, and she had a huge crush on Patrick Kane and Taves.
I mean, who
whatever.
didn't? Jeez.
Right.
Taves and Kane. And Patrick Sharp, so handsome.
Yeah. Oh, the hair.
This is what I heard in my household, so just FYI.
Yeah. So, we were watching it, and then she went crazy because she must have certainly thought, I didn't think it went in. And then, you remember those moments. But her and I remember in my Hall of Fame speech, I mentioned that moment. Like, I appreciated her. She was always there late at night when I was commuting and coming home late, and her and I would watch hockey games. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Jay, where were you?
I was also on my couch watching the game by myself because I think the kids were asleep and Michelle was at work. So I was all by myself, and I was about to let out a loud scream, but I remember the kids were asleep, so I couldn't do that because there was one time back in 2005 when the Sox won the series. Joshua was a couple of months old, and when the last out happened, I screamed so loud, I woke the baby, and I should have probably been kicked out of my house for a week. Because at that point, we had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn, and God forbid,
oh my gosh,
waking the baby, big mistake on my part. And I got yelled at, and
especially
rightfully
if
so.
you're home alone, right?
Yes.
You don't want them up when you're home alone.
No. So I watched the game by myself that night. But no, it was great memories. I remember the Kane goal, the 17 seconds against Boston, and I can't wait till they're relevant again. But it's going to be a few years,
and I think it will be. But I think in the next 2 drafts, they have 10 picks in the first or second round or something like that.
It's
now
crazy.
They just got another first round pick.
Yeah. A lot of people. A lot of people crap on Kyle Davidson, but just give it. I keep telling people, give it time. Give it a little bit of time.
There's no need to sign anybody yet. They're going to have to. You have to sprinkle in a few guys to sign some good players. You can't just rely on young guys because you don't know when you just can't. But right now, it's the right decision not to sign anybody that's going to help them win 5 more games or bring in it, but once those kids start growing a little bit and then you get all these draft picks in a year or 2, then you make the 2-3 free agent signings, and we'll be saying, do you remember when Bedard scored that goal in the Stanley Cup? And so it'll happen.
Well, that's what Jeff and I have talked about it. We've talked about how the average Chicago sports fan wants it now. They want to win now. They're just not patient. And, there's that balance between winning and building a sustainable winner, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think have more patience if we knew that's where it was going.
Right.
Well, you never, right?
Like, you never know.
You never know that.
So.
All right, gents, we've been talking for almost 2 hours here. Phil, who's your favorite coach of all time?
Wow.
Or maybe let's top 3, if that makes it easier.
Yeah, top 3, I would say Billy Martin. I love Billy Martin. Bud Grant. Love Bud Grant. I mean, I liked Tony La Russa until the last go round. I really liked him, and I was sad when Harrelson, or not Harrelson.
Harrelson fired him. Yeah.
Yeah, was it Harrelson?
Ken Harrelson, Hawk fired him.
Yeah. I really like La Russa, but trying to think, not Terry Bevington. But I would say I love Billy Martin because I know he was a crazy dude and he probably could have lived a lot longer if he didn't live so hard. And, but I thought he knew the game. I think Dick Williams was a really good coach too with the Oakland A's. He's a guy that I really respected.
Who do you think is the best active coach right now in any sport?
Wow.
Oh, that's a great question. Jeez.
I know I waited 2 hours to come up with them.
Yeah, that's a great one.
let's break it down by sport. NFL. Do you think Bill Belichick is the best coach
of all time? I'm going to say no. And I know that's because he had the best quarterback ever. And if you take away, and you can't, I get it. And he puts rings all over his fingers and he dates 23-year-olds and God bless him. And he's at North Carolina now. But if you take those fingers away and you look at the time he had without that guy, not great. I know he's a great defensive coordinator and so, I mean, he's got to be a top 3 coach of all time. I get that.
I mean, just on wins alone, right? But
right,
a lot of that does have to do with Tom Brady.
I just think that I can't wait to see what he does at North Carolina. That'll be interesting. But I don't know. What was
Andy Reid?
Yeah, you can't argue with that because honestly, the team that's around, he wins, man. He won with Philadelphia, didn't win the big one, but they don't have a great team the last 2 years. And they won. And I know they got a great quarterback, but this year he didn't have a great Right. He didn't have a great statistical season this year or last year. And they play for him. They love him. He's doing something right. Yeah, I mean, football, I think Andy Reid's got to be up there. Baseball, all-time coach. Oh, that's a tough one.
Well, who's the best coach right now?
Yeah,
who's
now.
The best
active
right
coach.
Now?
Baseball.
It is, and we're going to exclude the Dodgers financial team.
Roberts is pretty. Okay.
No. Roberts is okay, but no.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Golly.
Would you say Bochy? Would you say Bruce Bochy, even though he's about to retire?
Great book. Yeah, his book is great. Leadership book. What a really good book if you like reading books. It talks about how he laid the groundwork for San Francisco and how he did it from I even think did Buck Showalter win a series? I don't even know, but
I don't think he ever did, but
no, yeah. I love Buck Showalter too because he was disciplined and he took care of things from secretaries to equipment men to I thought he was a really good coach. But why I'm struggling? I'll tell you why. Because I think the Cubs coach is the best manager in baseball because of what he did with Milwaukee. He wanted a low market team. He won with guys that were marginal players. I hate to say it, but yeah. And I think the best basketball coach is Tom Thibodeau.
I like Tim.
Yeah.
He's a savant, man. He's a great coach. And the Bulls were stupid for letting him go, but they let the players make that decision because it was hard on him. And he made them play defense. And you saw when he left, they didn't play defense. They didn't play hard. And New York, it took a little while in New York because they had a bad bunch of guys when he took the job. But they're having a pretty good season this year. So I liked it.
Yeah,
my favorite thing. My favorite thing about Thibodeau is the saying was he made bad players average, average players good, and good players great. And that's what that's what the Bulls needed at that time because when he was coaching them, they didn't have a superstar. I mean, they had Rose, but when he was injured, he still got him through some tough times. And that was a huge miss when they fired him. That was bad.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it goes back to, that team was built around Rose and the strong defense. And as much as I loved Rose, it wasn't just him that paid the price, right, for that injury that he had.
Right.
Team really fell apart after that. And I think that probably contributed to him leaving as well. But
yeah, and I think the biggest thing great coaches do is those guys on that team knew their role. Like Phil Jackson. I think he's a great coach. I think, he knew how to manage people. If you manage Rodman, you're doing great.
Rodman, Jordan, Pippen, all at the same time.
Yeah, all together. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
But managing people.
No wonder he needed Ben.
Yes. And probably some wacky tobacco, maybe, I don't know. But anyway, but like when Tinch was a coach, no one knew his role, they knew to defer to Rose. Everybody knew their role. And I think that's huge on a team that wins championships. The Bulls had that, certainly Rodman was a rebounder. Certainly Pippen had to defer and then he sat on the bench when Kukoc, anyway. I think knowing the roles and when coaches set those roles and define roles, just like on the good teams I had, kids knew where they were, what they could do and played within themselves and knew, when you explain their role on a team and they buy in, I think that makes it pretty successful. And I think that's what good coaches do.
Mm-hmm. Well, I could tell you, Coach, you were certainly one of them. Just, all the time that we spent on the field, off the field, I'm thankful that we came across you in our lives, and you were just tremendous to my boys, and I will forever be grateful for that. So thank you very much.
I appreciate
you were just
that.
Awesome.
Well, they were a pleasure to coach, yeah, for sure. But I want to hear who's your manager now, best manager, Jason.
Who's my best manager? Oh,
yeah,
boy,
right now,
in baseball?
In the big leagues.
I got to say, okay, only because he's just coming back. Now he's eligible. I think Francona was just unbelievable as a manager.
Yeah.
And now it'll be interesting to see how he does with the Reds. But you brought up Showalter. He was always the guy that seemed to get hired when teams were a mess. Like the Mets. When he got hired with the Mets, they were a mess. When he got hired with the Orioles, he's the fix-it guy, He's the
cleaner. Those guys that come in and clean and fix up crime scenes, whatever, he's a cleaner, and that's what he was.
Yeah.
I thought Joe Girardi was a really good manager, too. Francona spoke to our kid.
Yeah. I wanted him to manage the Cubs, but...
Yeah. Francona spoke to our kids one year at Anaheim Stadium. We took the USA baseball kids there. I think that was a team that Freddie Freeman was on, maybe, and a lot of really good players. And he spoke to our kids. And when he got done speaking to our kids, I don't know if the kids wanted to, but I wanted to run through a brick wall for him because he played for USA Baseball in his playing days, and he wanted to come and talk to the kids. And it was like I'm getting goosebumps now thinking about what he said to those kids and how he, playing for the name on your chest, not the name on the back of your jersey. And Francona was good.
Hey, even and this ticks me off to this day that he managed in the Sox minor league system and they couldn't hang on to him, but he even got Michael Jordan to hit over 200. So
he did. He was coaching Birmingham then. Yeah,
that's right. The Barons. So well, Coach, this has been awesome. It's been great catching up with you. Really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Like I said, I'm a loyal listener and love to come on again if you want. But it was a great time. I think 2 hours flew by for sure.
This is our longest episode by far, so I think it just shows.
I was like,
the pleasure was all on this side of the table.
Talk about. Well, thank you, guys. I appreciate it, and keep pumping you guys out there. Hopefully, we get a couple listeners more. Keep it going.
We do it for the love of the game. We do it for the logo on the page, not for the non-existent paycheck.
I always wanted to do this. I love talking sports, and I love, it's given me everything in my life, coaching and sports. I've traveled all over the world and I've met great people and coached great kids. So this game has given me everything, and I love talking about it. So I appreciate you guys for having me on, and I'll be listening all the time and sending Jason little text messages. What do you mean about that? Or, we didn't
I love it. I love it.
We didn't get to talk music, but I love talking music too. And,
that means we got to bring you back. So we will bring you back to talk music. Absolutely.
Anytime. Thanks,
cool.
guys.
All right.
Yeah. Take care.
We're going to wrap it up here now. So, thanks for, listening, I guess, and being part of this, Phil. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Guys.
Talk to you next week.
Right, you too.
See ya.
See ya.